It is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. I will call this meeting of the Miami Township Trustees, Montgomery County to order. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Morris,
Aye, here.
Mr. Posey,
Here.
Mr. Culp,
Here. Reading of casualties, Mr. Posey, sir.
Yes, we have one on the military casualty list this time. Army Staff Sergeant Christopher Pantos, participating in Operation Inherent Resolve, passed at Ali Al Salam Air Base in Kuwait on April 26, 2021. I also have the first responder casualties list this week. First is Detective Luca Benedetti from the San Luis Obispo Department, California. End of watch, May 10th, 2021. Deputy Sheriff Samuel Leonard from the Concho County Sheriff's Office in Texas. End of watch, May 10th, 2021. Deputy Sheriff Stephen Jones, also from the Concho County Sheriff's Office, Texas. End of watch, May 10th, 2021. Police Officer Jimmy Inn from the Stockton Police Department, Stockton, California. End of watch, May 11th, 2021. Lastly, Firefighter Ricardo Torres Jr., New Haven Fire Department, New Haven, Connecticut. End of watch, May 12th, 2021.
Everyone will please join me in observing a moment of silence. Thank you. I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
New business, Mr. Mayberry, you have resolution 30-2021.
Yes, sir, I do. Good evening, board. As stated in the memo provided and attached to the draft resolution, this is a then and now resolution and it is needed to pay for some current fuel purchases. We have steps in place to cover future purchases, but this resolution is needed for the current purchases. Any questions?
Seemingly none. Mr. Snyder, you have resolution 31-2021.
All right, good evening, board. Resolution 31-2021 is a resolution to provide for one additional planning technician / inspector for the department. With the recent departure of our part-time zoning inspector, we are in need of additional staff. This would provide us with an opportunity to, again, give some of our newer staff time to continue their training and preparation for potentially being able to move up in the organization at a later time. So, but we do only have an allotment of one planning technician currently, so we would need board authorization to have two planning technicians at one time. You've got a memo in your packet regarding this, but I'd be happy to go over any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Snyder? Seeing none, Mr. McCord, you have 32-2021.
Yes, thank you. On the theme of then and now purchase orders, I've got a report of some that were created as a result of the implementation of our new software earlier this month. We just, because of the timing, the system flagged these because of the difference between the invoice date and the purchase order creation date. So I decided to err on the caution, be a little more cautious and just send you a report of everything that got caught up, even though board approval is only needed for the ones of 3,000 or more. Don't anticipate this to be an ongoing process. We think this is all just related to the conversion and the timing when we had the system down for about 5 days while they were implementing and putting in the new stuff. I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
Does not appear there are any questions, Mr. McCord. We will now move into the public comment period of the meeting. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to come to approach and speak with the board on any subject. You would use the raise your hand function in the Zoom meeting. Mr. Snyder, is there anyone raising their hand wishing to address the board at this time?
No, there is not.
All right, I will move to close the public comment period and move to consideration of resolutions and motions. I will begin by making a motion to approve resolution 030-2021, a resolution to approve a then and now purchase order for the purchase of fuel for public works. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 31-2021, a resolution to temporarily increase the authorized complement of planning technicians / inspectors. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp, Mr. Culp, are you there?
Aye. The sound didn't come through.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 32-2021, a resolution to approve then and now purchase orders. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Are there any department heads wishing to speak to the board? Elected officials, any comments or questions to any of the department heads? Any elected officials' comments? Mr. Newell,
I have none.
Mr. Posey,
I have none.
Mr. Culp.
I have none.
My only comment is to thank the citizens for supporting our fire levy. It was a great to see the ongoing support and statistics. Thanks to the department for sharing your monthly report. It's unfortunate that the number of calls seem to be continuing to increase. We're on pace to do a 7% increase in calls this year over last, and it seemed to have that steady rise every year. But my compliments to the ongoing service and thanks to our citizens for supporting the department. It is definitely needed. All right. I will now make a motion to move into work session at 6:08 for the discussion of internet access and phone service. Is there a second to move into work session?
I will second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Mr. Hess, Mr. McCord, internet and phone service.
Thank you. And before we start, I want to thank Battalion Chief Harp for attending. I don't think there's a need for you to stay on the rest of the meeting. So again, thank you, and thank Chief Queen.
Thank you.
You don't want to stay on to talk about internet and phone service? All right, just be that way.
Certainly, I got not much else to do tonight, so just kind of hanging out, in the spare bedroom.
It's your choice, sir. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. President, as you're aware that we were requested to do an RFP for internet phone services. We sent a document out to Spectrum, Cincinnati Bell, CenturyLink, which is Lumen, AT&T, and Mavecca. We received something back from Mavecca, Lumen, and then Cincinnati Bell. Though they were late, they did respond with two different proposals. Spectrum did not respond, nor did AT&T. Mr. McCord presented or sent out Sunday, I believe, a kind of a spreadsheet of the cost. And from this point on, I will turn it over to him to go over those numbers.
Thanks, Ron. The spreadsheet, I tried to put it all into a one-page summary of all of the information we got, and it's really looking at it from the financial perspective. And I just kind of walked through one of the proposals required some upfront costs. The other two did not. They were all baked into the ongoing service contract rate going forward. I went ahead and highlighted those elements that had the lowest or the best benefit for the township. And I mean, there's a clear break point between being able to upfront some of those costs. The couple of things that had happened is that during the RFP is we were talking about possibly relocating the lines to come down Washington Church Road, which is within one of the township's JEDs. And so Ron and I went to the JED board and just proposed, would they be interested in helping out or investing in this process as well? And they responded that they would definitely be interested in helping to defray some of the construction costs and investing in some infrastructure for the JED members. So what I did is I put together the summary and kind of compared monthly cost, annual cost, and then looked at the funding sources. And we had set aside some money last year when we started talking about this from CARES funds to upgrade the internet capacity and capabilities within the township, within this building, to be able to support digital meetings like this and kind of get ready for the next 100 years. And so looking at the fact that those funds are going to run out by the end of this year, and we can't use them for a future service or contract, it kind of rethinks how much we can leverage those funds. So one of the proposals, we can leverage just over 300,000, 306,715 is the estimate right now, in the initial construction costs, and the other with an additional 50,000 coming from the JED would basically, we would be investing in the first full year just under $65,000 of township funds in bringing 1 gig fiber lines, or 10 gig total, but 1 gig of fiber service up, 1 gig fiber down, which would maintain multiple video connections. It would ensure us steady backup. It would connect us to the state backbone, and it would give us that coverage that we've been looking for. Because of the initial costs, the monthly costs for the other two providers were from $6,300 to $8,100 a month. So while we come up a little bit more in total expense in the first year with the middle respondent, that quickly changes by year 6. And so within the first 10 years, we would be looking at a total outlay of township funds, local funds, of just over $140,000 versus $750,000 to almost $1 million with the other two proposals. So I was trying to be somewhat thoughtful in anonymizing the data. So what you see there is actually the timestamps of when each respondent's bid came in. And we have all that information. If anybody wants to pour through those documents, there's sales literature and some other stuff that's in there. But it really comes down to, we've got one group in here that's providing us with a low cost, but at the same time comparable technology. It meets our specifications, it meets our needs and our requirements. And we end up, one of the key factors with the CARES Act is the middle proposal, actually it's Mabeka, their proposal, we would actually own the fiber that would be laid and connecting our buildings. And so therefore it would qualify for CARES funding. We would not be able to use that to build out an existing commercial network. So with that, I ran the numbers. The proposal actually went out to as far as 45 years. I didn't bother running I shortened the chart for you guys in the reading materials to just the first 10 years to kind of show you where those trajectories were. It doesn't look as though this is going to create an unsustainable amount of ongoing service requirements from the township.
What's our current cost of service?
Excuse me?
What's our current monthly cost of service?
We're just over, I think, right at $1,000 right now. I'll have to pull the numbers. I'll pull the exact numbers for you.
So essentially, you're saying after the initial construction expense, the cost per month will go up approximately 20% to $1,200 a month for significantly better dedicated service.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to get at. I don't think the service that we have now is a dedicated fiber line in the same way as these proposals are.
No, the services, as we have noted in prior meetings and discussions and information that's been shared for the public that's maybe listening today, we've had a numerous number of outages, which have allowed us, has put us in a position of not being able to service the community. So it's important that we get our service to the point where it can be continuously up and operable. Mr. Posey, do you have questions for Mr. McCord on these proposals?
I do not.
Mr. Culp?
I do not.
My only question is just, Clay, if you could clarify that where this CARES Act money is coming from, because we've talked about a number of different mechanisms at the CARES Act, and I want to be sure I know we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. We had talked about creating this innovation fund with the SB4 money, which we could take out of TIFs. Is this different than that, or is this that money?
No, this is strictly the federal money that was dispersed to the township through the state. It's not moving any of the existing TIF funds. It has nothing to do with Senate Bill 4. This is straight federal funding that's coming through that we have to spend, and originally we had to spend it in 2020, and they came in the last minute in December and extended it to December 31st of 2021, but the funding would run out. So that's why you see a significantly smaller portion of CARES Act money being allocated to the other two proposals, because we could only pay for about 6 or 7 months of service with it.
Yeah, so as a reminder again to those who may not understand what we're talking about, the CARES Act is some federal funding that came to us for some very specific and dedicated purposes. This is one of those purposes. And it's a use it or lose it type of scenario. So this is a good example of our administration working diligently to identify a much needed project and a good use of those funds. My only other comment and initial concern was, is this analysis really apples to oranges? One is a build it up front, pay for the construction cost, low monthly fee, as Clay indicated. The other one is a much higher per month fee with nothing up front. Could we go back to those other providers and ask them to provide a similar format? I think what Clay presented was the kicker is we have to own the fiber. And in order to use the CARES Act money, if we don't own the asset, we can't buy it. And with the other vendors, they're not going to sell us the lines. They're just going to build it out for us, and they would still own the line. So I don't have any further comments or questions. Mr. McCord, Mr. Hess, are you looking for some direction from the board at this time?
Yes, it's give us direction that we will come with a next meeting or within the month with a agreement to authorize myself to get into with Mavecca so we can start this process. On a side note, we also did throw a secondary request for phones, but it was too short of a time to work with them to say, this is the number of phones, this is the type of phones. But Mavecca also does provide that feature. I know MVCC went with them on their phones. The city went with them on their city of Miamisburg went with them on their phones. So that option is also there.
Yeah, I think once you have dedicated fiber in, you can really open the door to just internet-based phone systems in general, and then you're not locked into a internet provider and also a phone provider. So this actually opens up the door to saving money in the long run on phone systems as well. So,
And the one thing with Maveka is they're not here to make a profit. They're here to provide service. So they're unlike the Spectrums, the AT&Ts, Lumen, who is there to make a profit.
any other questions regarding this topic, Mr. Culp and Mr. Posey? Mr. Hess, Mr. McCord, do you have the direction you needed?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to come out of work session at 6:20. Is there a second?
We'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp.
Aye.
All right, we are about to go into executive session. At the conclusion of the executive session, there will be no additional business. We will go directly into adjournment. Given that, I will make a motion to go into executive session at 6:22 to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, official licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing in accordance with ORC 1.1.22 subsection G1. And also to adjourn into the same executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, official licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing in accordance with ORC 121.22. Is there a second?
I will second the motion to go into executive session.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Culp.
You're cutting out again for some reason.
Mr. Culp. Is that better?
Aye.
All right, thank you all for attending today's meeting. We will now adjourn into executive session.